Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. The ninth round was also marking an entrance to the second third of the season. And in it was extremely close in Hungary between Szolnok and Zadar. Mega Vizura wanted to win for the first time away from home in Novo Mesto, and a decimated Olympia had a difficult task in Podgorica as they faced the second-best team of the league. A big derby in Belgrade as former champions of Europe locked horns, while the other derby was in Zagreb as Cedevita wanted to become the first team to defeat Crvena Zvezda this season. News first. After a home defeat to MZT, Vlado Jovanovic is no longer Igor Kea's coach after both parties agreed on the termination of his contract. Jovanovic was champion of the ABBA League with Partizan in 2011 and gets replaced by his assistant as Milutin Latincic steps in again as the interim coach. Bad news for Union Olympia as they lose their first-choice centre Mirza Begic to Laboral Kucha. He averaged 9.8 points and 5.7 rebounds and 2.2 blocks in the 8 games he played for the Ljubljana outfit. Miljan Pupovic has left Levski reportedly because he hadn't received a single salary this season. It comes as a blow to the Bulgarian champion as Pupovic was a valuable member of the club, contributing almost 11 points per game. Mega Vizura has changed their name to Mega Lex, but Sremska Mitrovica remains their venue. The Hungarian champion hosted Zadar on a good premise that they collected 2 wins more than the visitors, who had only 2 to their name. David Vojvoda was the first player to score in this match, and in fact the first 6 points from the home team went unanswered before Marko Ramljak broke the deadlock for Zadar. He didn't stop Szolnok from opening this game really well, as they were soon in front by 12-2 as David Vojvoda fired twice for 3, announcing his amazing scoring night. Still, Zadar managed to stay in touch by the end of the first quarter, which ended with Franco Shango making it to 23-17 with a 3. Shango also opened the second period well as he quickly scored 2 more for 3 and equaled the score to 23. He would achieve his personal best in this game with 15 points. Soon after that, Zadar was already in front by 5 when Lovre Basic also scored from distance and rounded up a run of 14 consecutive points for the Dalmatians. Stefan Sinovic then ended a run when he made it 28-25, but only briefly, as Zadar's momentum had soon taken them to a 9-point advantage, as James Florence also contributed 2 3-pointers. He was eventually Zadar's best scorer with 21 points. Henrik Širko was the last one to score in the first half, which ended with Zadar in front by 43-37. The visitors were still in front by 7 points at the start of the third period when their captain Iver Ivanov scored, but then it was Szolnok's turn to take the initiative as they soon caught up with Zadar through Christian Wittmann. David Vojvoda then capped their run of 13-2 with 2 consecutive 3-pointers, which had left Zadar trailing by 4 points, but not for long, as Marko Ramljak was precise at the other end, and before the last 10 minutes, only 1 point separated the teams. Opposite to the majority of the game, the last quarter was extremely close all the way through. Christian Wittmann had a record-scoring game with 14 points, 3 of which were enough to equal the score to 78. Right after that, the visitors blew their chance of a lead, while Strahina Milosevic wouldn't miss that chance as he put Szolnok 2 points ahead. But the reply was swift as Ramljak scored again for 3 to put Zadar 1 point to the good. But the grand finale would eventually go to Szolnok, more precisely to David Vojvoda, who managed to crown the game of his career with, as it would turn out, the winning basket, his 36th point of the match. It needs to be said, though, the visitors had 3 more chances to win this game, but Florence and Širko squandered that opportunity as Szolnok came on top in the end with the slimmest of margins. The injury-plagued Slovenian champion hosted the young and talented Mega Vizura, who had previously lost their first home game of the season. Mirko Mulalic opened the game well for the hosts as he was quick to score for 3. And at the other end, it was Nenad Miljanovic who got the guests going. He would finish the game on 16 points and reinforce his image of one of the best point guards of the league. Great battle under the baskets, and this you won't see often, as Alexis Vangmene managed to block a 7-footer Dusan Chanketing. Splendid effort from the Congolese, as there is an 18-centimeter height difference between the players. Soon the currently best-rated player of the league was marking his mark, as he had 14 points to his name already in the 8th minute. We're talking, of course, about Nikola Jokic. The first quarter finished with Mega Vizura in front by 3 after Nenad Miljanovic scored for 3. The visitors were quick to open a 7-point advantage at the start of the second period, as Ognjen Jarama scored 5 in a row. But then the next 6 was scored by Chris Booker, and Krka was only behind by 1. Two minutes before half-time, Matej Reutz made sure Krka would take the lead again after some time. They were still in front come the end of the first 20 minutes, but only by a point, as Nikola Jokic scored for 3. The public enjoyed the opening of the third period, as Erion Kastrati's dunk was the first act in it. But the teams would soon be equal, as Jokic again scored from far. He would be the eventual best player of the night with 22 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 steals. Teams were only separated by a point at the end of the third quarter, when Mirko Mulalic drove nicely to the basket. The balance was the same when Malcolm Armstead scored 2 of his 16 altogether, but then the visitors scored the next 11 points, 6 of which were contributed by Marko Kišel. He was also having a good game, reaching a double-double with 12 points and 11 rebounds. Two minutes before time, there was some hope restored for the home team when Mulalic hit for 3. But they couldn't come any closer, as in the end they lost the game by 80-72, a third straight defeat for the Slovenian champion, as Mega triumphs away from home for the first time this season. Nikola Ivanovic was able to play for Budućnost for the first time this season after a lengthy spell on the sidelines through injury. The Montenegrin champion was also able to welcome J.R. Reynolds back to the lineup before facing Olimpija and their Morača Hall. The guests lost Mirza Begic and was still without the injured trio of Muric, Salin and Rupnik. Darko Planinic was the first one to score in this match, and as it turned out, he scored the first 8 for Budućnost, while at the other end Marko Marinovic opened his night with a 3. After a slow start, Olimpija found some rhythm, and after Alen Omic scored 3 times in a row, they were level with the hosts at 18. Vladimir Dašić also scored 3 times in this quarter, and when he did it for the third time, he made it 20-16. After 10 minutes, Budućnost was in front by 26-19, with J.R. Reynolds scoring last in the first period. Soon in the second quarter, Halil Kanacevic managed to score 5 points in a row, capping a 7-0 run for the visitors, who had closed the gap to just 2 points. That said, Budućnost was soon back in front by 6, as Darko Planinic was still causing problems for Olimpija's front court. The last basket of the half was Nikola Ivanovic's very first this season, and with it he set the result after 20 minutes. It was 43-36. The home team opened the third period well, firstly through Suat Šehović and then through J.R. Reynolds. He managed to make a double-digit lead for the first time in the match. At the other end, the visitors' boat was kept afloat by Halil Kanacevic, as he scored twice in a row to cut the deficit to 7. What was particularly awful from Budućnost that night was shooting from distance, as they needed as many as 12 attempts to score for 3, courtesy of Nikola Ivanovic in the 28th minute, but it did give them the double-digit lead back. The guests from Ljubljana managed to close the gap back to 6 points prior to entering the final 10 minutes of the game, but oddly, The green and white managed to score just 2 points in 7 minutes of the last and decisive period, and that was when Marinelli was successful. By the time Ciedomir Vitkovac scored 3 times in a row, the hosts were nurturing a new highest advantage of 15. The visitors would provide the final threat, though, as they managed to come within 9 points a bit less than 2 minutes before time. But when Omar Cook scored his first and only Budućnost second, it was all over for the visitors, as it had put the home team back to a 12-point advantage. It was a poor performance by the Slovenian outfit, as proven also by the low score of 61, which is their lowest this season in all competitions, while Budućnost reached 76 in spite of 17 missed shots for free. The two newcomers to the league met in Valjevo, with Metalac in much better shape than Levski, as they could boast with a 3-match winning streak after Levski arrived on the back of a 6 straight defeats and was also forced to play with only 10 men, as Miljan Pupovic, Brandon Heath and Hristo Zachario were all missing. It was only the second game of the home game of the season for Metalac, and they had really opened it well, as they scored the first 14 points of the match, a run concluded attractively by Nikola Malešević. The visitors needed 5 long minutes to get going when Pavlin Ivanov finally broke that deadlock. The home team finished the period in a similar fashion as they had opened it, with George Majstorovic dunking to make it 24-11. Nikola Malešević was playing really well, and with his 16th point, he put Metalac back to a 16-point lead. And that was soon elevated to 22, as Majstorovic was taking good advantage of the Bulgarians' bad defensive display. The visitors managed to at least cut the deficit to 17 points until the end of the half, mainly through Pavel Ivanov. 45-28 after the first 20 minutes. Nothing much changed after the interval, as Metalac was quick to re-establish complete authority, and after Marko Ljubicic was successful, the gap was back to 24. Dimitar Dimitrov was making sure the lead wouldn't grow any further. In the end, he even had a record-scoring game with 21 points, but it didn't prevent Levski from trailing Metalac by 63-47 after 30 minutes of play. In the home ranks, George Majstorovic was the best scorer with 19 points, and with this dunk he put his team back to a 20-point lead. When Nemanja Todorovic scored 2 consecutive 3-pointers, the gap was already 28 points, so the game was as good as finished in the middle of the last period. It finished with 81-54, a 4th successive win for Metalac, and a 7th straight defeat for Levski, who's now really in big trouble. Igor Kea needed to make things right in the home game against MZT Skopje after squandering an excellent chance to surprise Olympia in their own court in the previous round, but they had a good chance of doing so as they hosted a team which hadn't tasted victory for over a month. Uroš Lucic opened the scoring for MZT, and he had a good game as he was able to contribute 15 points in the end. Igor Kea got going through Branko Jorovic and Mladen Jeremic, as the latter would put it to 7-4 for the hosts. But then it was the visitors with the first bit of momentum, as they were the ones who put together an 11-2 run, as Ivan Marinkovic put MZT in the lead of 15-9. They were in front by 7 points after the first 10 minutes, and that was after Nikola Dragovic had reduced it from 9. Aleksandar Cvetkovic scored only once for 3 in the game, and it was to give MZT a 12-point advantage at the start of the second period. Jonathan Jones at the other end, also with a single 3-pointer from 6 attempts in this match, and it was to put the hosts back to a 6-point deficit. MZT's response was to set a new highest lead of the game of 13 points after Damian Stoyanov secured 3 points from that offense. Igor Kea was still trailing the Macedonians by 11 points after Jeremic was the last one to score in the first half. After Đorđe Milošević scored for 3 to close the gap to 8 points, there was some hope reinforced, but on this day MZT would always provide the answer. Damian Stoyanov had a particularly good game as he led the visitors' scoring chart with 20 points, and after he scored, MZT was back to a 12-point lead. 56-47 before the last 10 minutes of the game, which started with MZT increasing the lead to 14 points after Cvetković scored twice in a row. But it was no coming back for Igokea some 2 minutes before time, when Marko Simonovski scored his 4th three-pointer, after which the home team was trailing by 16. A strong first away win for MZT this season in the end, which also led to Vlada Jovanović parting ways with the club from Aleksandrovac. No real doubt when the biggest crowd would turn up in the 9th round, as 6,000 people witnessed the 6-time winner of the ABA League take on the defending champion from Zagreb. A great derby between the two former champions of Europe, of course, with Cibona opening the scoring through their captain Marin Rozic, and at the other end it was one of the best players in this stressful season for Partizan, Nikola Milutino. Cibona held the lead of 8-7 when Damir Markota scored his first three-pointer of the match, but that was followed by a nice bit of momentum for Partizan, who took a 10-point lead after Edo Muric fired from distance. Muric scored 8 of his 14-point tally in the first period, which Partizan had won by 24-16 after Lalic beat the buzzer of the first 10 minutes. Edo Muric was continuing with a good display at the beginning of the second period, making sure his team got away to a 15-point advantage. Vlado Ilijevski then reduced it to 11 after stepping on court for the first time in the match, which he ended on 14 points with only 2 missed shots from open play. Nikola Milutino also with a good game. His 11th point of 18 altogether put Partizan back in a commanding lead of 14 points. Partizan was making good use of Cibona's bad defensive display with a much faster game, and it was no real surprise the black and white were 15 points ahead at the interval. The lead soon grew to 19 points after Milenko Tepic made it 49-30. It had a relaxing effect on the home team, which, credit to an experienced Cibona's 5, the visitors took advantage of, and for the first time after the start of the second quarter managed to close the gap to less than 10 points after Rozic scored 2 of his 14 altogether. Still, Partizan back to a double-digit lead before the start of the last 10 minutes after Gagic made it 61-50. Another good run of 5 successive points from the man of the match, Nikola Milutino, in the last quarter secured the black and white a 14-point advantage. But Cibona did provide some resistance, mainly through the more senior players, as Jarrell Blessingame closed the gap to 8 points. Some 3 minutes before time, the deficit would be back to 11, as Milan Matvan was precise from distance. The deciding blow probably came from Luka Bogdanovic a good minute before time. He only played 5 minutes in this game, but was able to score from all 3 attempts from open play. Partizan won it by 73-68 in the end, as they confirmed their upward curve with a 5 straight win. The reigning champion remains at only 3. A real treat in the last game of the 9th round, as Cedevita hosted Crvena Zvezda in front of a capacity crowd in the Dom Sportova Hall. Almost 3,000 people. Couldn't have ever expected this. Marjanovic's opener would be the first in a run of 11 unanswered points from Crvena Zvezda. It took more than 4 minutes for Marko Arapovic to finally break the deadlock. This is this action, and it was a start of an immediate comeback for the home team. After Fran Pilepic scored his second three-pointer, Cedevita was only behind by 4 points, and come the end of the first period, the teams were already level at 17. Then right at the start of the second quarter, a first lead for the home team as Tomislav Zupčić rounded up a run of 9 successive points for them by scoring twice in a row. But Crvena Zvezda was soon back in it as Marcus Williams scored from distance. He would eventually finish the game on 11 points and as many as 12 assists. Still, Cedevita was able to end the first half on a high, first by taking a 6-point lead through Mario Delas and then closing the first 20 minutes just slightly ahead of the opponent. It was 38-36. Right after the interval, Jaka Blažić would announce his intent of becoming the game's most valuable player by scoring the first 5 points of the third period. The German centre Mike Zirbes followed in Blažic's footstep as the two had taken Crvena Zvezda to a 9-point advantage. But Fran Pilepic was deadly from distance at the other side, and not before long Cedevita was back to a 4-point deficit. But the red and white from Belgrade then went on to score twice for free in the remaining minute of the third quarter, the second of which Blažić fired in the last second, and it had put Zvezda into a 10-point lead before the start of the last 10 minutes. Blažić then opened the last period with another three to round up a 9-0 partial for the visitors and take them to a 13-point lead. It all seemed to be going the visitors' way, but again Cedevita would fight back into the game, mostly through free throws, and when Ante Delas scored for free, they were only behind by 1. Couldn't quite catch the visitors though, as Luka Mitrovic contributed some crucial points to keep the visitors just slightly in front. Little over a minute, Miro Bilan managed to score and draw a foul as well, and with the additional free throw, he had equaled the score to 85. 15 seconds later, the home team was in front as Ante Delas rounded up an 8-0 partial for the Vitamins as they took the lead, while at the other end, Mike Zirbes had a chance to level the score but was only half successful from the free throw line. After that, Ante Delas missed his shot for three, and then Roko Lukic fouled Jaka Blažić, who in turn had a chance to put Zvezda ahead from the free throw line, which he managed to do just 5.7 seconds before time. It was enough for the visiting team to win as Ante Delas missed another shot for three, and the win went to Belgrade. So, Solnok with the narrowest of wins this round, Mega Vizura as it was still called then, with the first away win of the season in Novo Mesto. The same goes for MZT, who was victorious in Laktaši. The highest win of the round goes to Metalac. Both Serbian giants were better than their Croatian counterparts. Let's take a look at the table. No change at the top, where Crvena Zvezda still has one more win than Budućnost. Cedevita remains in third place despite of losing the derby. Partizan is now in the top half of the table, while Cibona remains in the bottom. More bad news for Levski, as they remain firmly rooted to the bottom. David Vojvoda is our most valuable player of the round. In the 35 minutes he played against Zadar, which was incidentally his game of his career, he scored 36 points, which is of course his ABA League record. He added 1 rebound and 3 assists to his tally, which makes him our standout player of the 9th round. And now let's take a look at the 5 best actions of the round. At number 5 we have this nice counter-attack from Crvena Zvezda, and Mike Zirbes finishing it off nicely. Number 4, this extremely nice block from Alexis Van Mene. No chance for Dusan Chantekin this time. At number 3, Partizan's counter-attack, which was concluded by Edo Muric with a dunk. At number 2, we have Erion Castrati, who managed to outplay the whole 5 of Mega Vizura and finish it off with a dunk. And our number 1, this Metalaces counter-attack. Again, George Mastorovic, who was really dunking it well in this match. The 10th round gets going on Saturday with Zadar hosting Krka. The games will follow thick and fast all the way through the weekend, and it closes on Monday with a climax game as the eternal Belgrade derby is on show. Don't miss that, and join us again next time, because that is all for today. Bye bye.